Hey guys, my name is Huschenbeth and I welcome you to a new episode of How to Solve Chess Tactics. And this is what we're going to do right now, and I hope I can give you some valuable advice on how to solve tactics or how to find tactics in your own games. Alright, so let's go ahead and start the classics train on Chess24. Here we are, the first exercise already there. Let me switch the screen, and I'll also just change the speed of the moves. So in case it's the first time you see this format of mine, this is how it works. You're going to solve this exercise now on your own, so please stop the video and then I'm going to solve it, and while I'm solving it I'm going to tell you what's going on in my head, and then you can compare your thoughts to mine, and I hope you can take something from that. So please stop the video right now and solve the exercise. Okay, so what's going on? Alright, so both sides are attacking the opposite king, and so the question is who's coming first. Black is threatening to mate in g4, so that clearly means we have to do something with check, because otherwise we're mated. So let's see what we can do, what are our possibilities to give checks. And the first one which comes to my mind is bishop b7. Obviously black has to take, queen takes b7, and now give a check on e8, and then, well, king has to go to a7 because queen c8, queen b8, it's just taken. And then another check, bishop d4, king has to go to a6, queen b6 doesn't help, and bishop c5 also is just taken. And then already there's the mate, queen a4. So that wasn't too hard, it was a pretty straightforward line. Really there were no other checks to be given. I mean, queen b7 is not an option, queen d5 obviously isn't either. So that was pretty straightforward, and I think it wasn't too hard to find this variation. I mean, especially since you didn't have a lot of candidate moves to calculate, and that's really something I emphasize, that before you start your calculation, or that you just try to take in all the moves in the position which are possible. And since we knew it must probably be a check, because otherwise we made it, it wasn't too hard. Okay, let's play this line, queen e8, bishop d4, and now it's mate. Alright, so I think that was pretty clear. So let's go to the next exercise. Alright, and once again, your turn, and now I'm going to solve it. Okay, so black just took an f2. What a strong move. We can take back because of rook d1 check, rook f1, bishop d4 check. And black is obviously threatening to take on g2 and mate us soon. So again, probably we should do something with checks, because otherwise, well, it's just too strong of a threat. So the first check which comes to mind is obviously rook e8, so king g7. So what can we do then? Well, there's the next check, it's knight e6. I mean, that's pretty obvious, I would say. And what I like about this move is that the knight is covering the square on d4. That means that the variation that we just looked at, rook takes f2, rook d1, rook f1, bishop d4 check, isn't working anymore, because the knight on e6 is protecting the square on d4. So let's say if the king goes to h6, we can just take the rook and we're up a rook. Okay. But after king f7, that must be the critical move, attacking the rook on e6. So, excuse me, on e8, of course, the rook on e8. So, what are we going to do then? That's interesting. Okay, so if we take on f2, then black can give a check on d1, rook f1, oh, excuse me, rook takes f1, king takes f1, and then king takes e8. And it seems we just have an equal endgame. I mean, that wouldn't be too bad from the original position, because here almost looks like white is losing. But the question is if we have something better. So what if we, instead of rook takes f2, what if we start with rook f8 check? King takes e6. King takes e6, and then if we take on f2, the problem is that that black can again pin the rook on the g1 a7 diagonal, because, well, this square is not protected by the knight anymore, because the knight obviously doesn't exist anymore. Okay, so rook f8 check, king takes e6. Do we have any other options here? Do we have to take an f2 quite yet? We could give another check on e1, but does that help us? King d7 simply. I don't think that helps us. Still the same problem. Rook takes f2, bishop d4. Very interesting, but I mean, we have to play rook e8. There's no way around it. So king g7. If we give another check on e7, that can't be right. That can't be a solution. So what about, no, we can't do it. I was thinking maybe rook takes f2 first, but black's playing everything with check, so that doesn't work. So knight e6 check, king to f7. I don't see anything better than to go for the drawish endgame, pretty much. I mean, I don't see anything. And, you know, you always gotta play what you think is best. So I think I'm going to play this line, rook e8, king g7, knight e6 check, king f7, and then rook takes f2. So let's go for it. Rook e8, knight e6, king f7, and maybe we can stop one more time and check if there's anything better here, any other options. So rook f2, that's forced, that doesn't help. And rook f8 and rook takes f2, bishop d4. Oh, wait a sec. After rook takes f2, it's with check, so black can't play rook d1. Alright, that changes everything. So then that works, because here the point is that now we can give another check on f8. And now we don't take with the rook because of the pin, but with the king, and now we're just up in exchange. This is how it works. Alright, okay. So we had all the pieces together, but I just didn't realize that rook takes f2 is coming with check. I was thinking black can play rook d1, but obviously he can't. Alright, so that was a little bit more difficult, but maybe just because I didn't see it's a check here. Yeah, and then it was important to have this intermediate move, rook f8. Alright, let's go to the next exercise. Okay, so again, your turn, stop the video, and now I'm going to try and solve it. Alright, what's going on here? Equal material. What are our candidate moves? Again, as always, I like to give checks, and the first move which comes to my mind is the move a4 check. It's just jumping at me, this move. I just see this move right ahead, because also white only has one move to reply. He has to take on a4, and then is the question if there's some way to create some mating net somehow. That's really the question. Okay, so a4 check, king takes a4. So if white was to go back to b3, we didn't win anything. So it seems we have to prevent him from doing that in any way. So bishop c4 might be one move, bishop e3 might be another move. and not so easy to figure out what's the right continuation here. We could also actually start with bishop e3. I don't know if that makes any difference. Could be also very much true that bishop e3 is also a candidate move to bring in the bishop from f4 into the attack against the king. But okay, let's first focus on a4 check. King takes a4. What are the possibilities? b3. Is b3 really a move? b3. I don't know if that's going to work. I can't really believe it. A takes b3, and then what? Maybe bishop e3 then. That looks interesting. That looks interesting. We will keep that in mind, this idea of b3, because then bishop e3, and after rook f3, suddenly rook a8 check, king b4, bishop d2 is mate. So there are some ideas to mate the white king, but obviously after b3, white doesn't even have to take. He can also play a3, so lots of variations, and that's just a very good tactic, because in your games you will often find it similar. There are a lot of several lines you have to calculate, and then you have to consider this variation and then this variation, and it's not just straightforward one line you have to calculate. Okay, so let's go ahead and do one line after another. a4 check, king takes a4, b3, and now a3. Okay. Very interesting. So a3. Now there are some ideas to give a check on b5. That's certainly something we will keep in mind. So for example, then bishop e3, and then again rook f3 doesn't work because of bishop b5 check, and if the king goes to b4, b3, we can play a discover check to e2, attacking the rook and winning the rook. And if the king goes to a5, again bishop d2 is mate. Okay. So maybe with the bishop e3 then, white has to play the rook to g2, but that's certainly not a square he likes to play the rook to, and I think can just play bishop to f1 already, maybe. Or bishop b5 again, certainly also an option. And then bishop f1. That looks very promising, to be honest. Very promising. So let's see what other options white has. a4, king takes a4. And now the question is also, do we start with bishop e3 or do we start with b3? Also something we would like to consider here. And I honestly don't know. Maybe sometimes there's no difference, but you always want to make sure if you have two moves which are both looking good, then just try to find a difference. And I know it's very hard sometimes, and sometimes you just have to listen to your intuition, because it happened to me that I spent so much time just trying to figure out which one is the better move. And maybe sometimes there is no difference, but I feel like oftentimes there is. So try to find a difference. So a4, king takes a4, b3. Can white play actually king a3? No, just bishop e3, followed by bishop c5. That can't be possible. So after b3, that's tough. That's tough, guys. Bishop e3 or b3 first. Bishop e3. What is white going to do anyway? Where is he going to place his rook? Probably f3, and then b3. Bishop takes rook takes e3, b takes a2, and now we're going to queen. So bishop rook e1, bishop b1. Okay, so that looks pretty good too, and I honestly don't know if there's a difference here, but I feel like maybe white is going to give up the exchange. So I think in this case it would make sense to not play b3 first, to not give up another pawn, right? So to start with bishop e3, and this is my rationale here, and this is why I'm going to start with bishop e3. So let's go ahead. and I'm going to start with bishop e3, and I hope that's right, and it's not. Okay, so I might have missed something. So let's see and find out. So we pretty much had the right idea. I mean, I just made the wrong move order, and I don't know honestly right now what I missed. So we can take a look at this right now. So the solution is b3, a takes b3, bishop e3, and we had just seen all of that, exactly this variation here I had mentioned, and it's made. So the question is really, why isn't bishop e3 first working as well? And I don't know the answer. I mean, I can't play moves right now, so we can just do it in our heads. But I honestly don't know. So maybe the creators of this tactic just forgot to include this move, or maybe I'm just missing something. You can tell me. Maybe you can find something here that I missed. But I think that's enough for now. It was interesting today because the difficulty of the tactics increased with every single one. First one was pretty straightforward, and then the second and the third one were much more difficult. And I hope you could take something from there. And if you like this video, I would be happy if you subscribe to my channel. Just click on the icon in the top right corner, and then it will say subscribe, and you can do that there. All right, thank you for watching, and see you soon. Bye.